Here we go. It is Chalk Talk with Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. You got to go to that website, become a member, learn more about football, and you can learn more about barbecue from Owl's Nest Barbecue than you ever imagined. It's right there in Ooltewah. They've got it all: rubs, sauces, the Green Mountain Grills. And don't forget about Steve Ray's Midnight Oil next door, a proud Michelin distributor. I'll tell you more about that Green Mountain Grill and the rubs and the sauces. Want to remind you, though, for Chris's great breakdowns week in and week out of Tennessee and who they played and who they're getting ready to play and X's and O's that you'll get nowhere else. Please hit that like button. Yes, hit that like button, subscribe, and share. We greatly appreciate that. So, Tennessee, Missouri, Chris, and the Vols handled business maybe too good. Caught a little bit of criticism at the end. I want to talk X's and O's as much as anything, but if we can address the elephant in the room, it was the late score, the deep throw on that drive that caught some ire of some national broadcasters. What did you make of it from a former coach's perspective?
Well, that's the type of criticism you like. You're scoring too much.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
take that. Yeah, look, I think a couple of things. One, this is their offense. They don't really know how to throttle it down. They don't really work that 4 minute, ground it out. That's the style that I grew up in that I believe. I believe in being able to be multiple, be able to run it effectively, huddle and slow down the pace and still score. And that's just kind of what I grew up in and what I believe. This is different with Josh. Josh likes to run this style. It's fast place, always scoring, go deep, attack, attack, attack. And the negative for me is not in a game like this, scoring too much. It's when you maybe play a good opponent and you've got a sizable lead. But then as you're continuing to try to score fast, is a tip ball. You throw a pick unexpectedly. You have a couple of incompletions, a 3 and out, and boom, and all of a sudden you got a 17-point lead that disappears very, very quickly because you're going so fast. It allows a team to come back in if they're good enough to do it. Most of the teams like Missouri is not good enough. I think scoring a lot of points is what they do too. I think we'd be naive to think that in the event that they need to get style points for the playoffs, or if that matters, and don't they say it doesn't, but they're humans. I think that it doesn't hurt. Okay, and then I think we'd be naive too, and you're not going to get anyone to admit it, but it was Eli Drinkwitz, and I think that was a little bit of the. I'm not going to say anything after you said something about our program in July, but we kind of filed that away, and there's a little bit of that. I mean, maybe if it's another team, and we'll see, because I think they'll have that chance against South Carolina and Vanderbilt too. Maybe in that situation, if they're up a lot of points, maybe they take a knee at the end. But maybe with Eli, so my point is he may do the same thing in the last 3 games. But as I've said to you before, and I'll say it again, I think Josh liked putting that extra touchdown on Eli Drinkwitz.
And I'll be
So
the, and I'll be the first to say I don't blame him. I have
yeah,
no
I don't
problem.
either.
I mean, that I thought that the way Drinkwitz wedged that shot in at Tennessee in the summer was very
Unprofessional. It was
unprofessional,
unprofessional.
agenda driven. I mean,
Immature.
it was in the middle of an intro. I mean, they didn't even get to the point. He wasn't even asked about Tennessee. But nonetheless, I love your X's and O's. Give me 5 people that stood out in the Tennessee Missouri game before we talk some South Carolina. And I remind people, hit like, subscribe, and please share.
Well, I'm going to give you some, Hendon Hooker, of course, and Jalen Hyatt, but Brew McCoy graded out well. Squirrel Wright graded out very well. Trying to think who else I'm trying to look. I thought Jalen Wright did a really good job. Dylan Sampson did a good job on the offensive side. By the way, I thought Joe Milton played well in the snaps he played defensively. I'm trying to look at my notes. Tyler Barron, Solomon Page, Turnage, I think all those guys did really well.
All right. Let's look forward. South Carolina. Um, this is a program that you've said before has a glass ceiling, and I would agree with that. But as far as what Shane Beamer's putting on the field right now, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think they're a real inconsistent team. Look, I think the quarterback they over evaluated, and Shane felt like he knew him because he part of recruited him at Oklahoma. He's just not very good. He has no real pocket presence, so they don't have good quarterback play. They don't have any real identity on offense, and defensively, they've got a few good players that are playmakers. I think they do a pretty good job on special teams, but they don't do anything special. They haven't really beaten a good team this year. They're 6-6, going to go to a bowl game. I said it last year when he got them to a bowl game, and well, they're going to take that next step and win 8. I didn't see it. Here's the thing with South Carolina. You either got to recruit elite players, which no one has recruited consistently elite players at South Carolina. I'm talking elite like Georgia or Florida typically does. You're not. So you have to have a coaching staff that can what I call up coaching. That you need to really do a good job of developing and be really elite as a coaching staff. And I think that coaching staff's pretty average at best, and I'm being kind. So I don't think there's anything special about them. I don't think they're that good. I'm going to be honest with you. I think at least Missouri is well coached on defense.
Ouch. Okay.
I think South Carolina, and I don't think So I mean, if you ask me who's a better, I think Missouri. I think Blake Baker is a better coach than anybody on the defensive staff at South Carolina. I'm not a big fan of Eli Drinkwitz, and his offense has been underachieving. But Shane really is nothing special as a coach. So I just and Shane's good young man, love his dad, like him as a young man, former Tennessee assistant as well.
Yep.
I mean, it's just nothing special about him. I think Missouri's better team than South Carolina. Now we'll see, what happens. Having to go there, and it's always a challenge. Doesn't mean the game's going to be easier. It's up to Tennessee. I would expect to get similar treatment though that Missouri got.
Give me 5 players on South Carolina's football team because I think a lot of Tennessee fans watch a lot of the SEC, but with the college football playoff, they're probably watching more Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon than they would be regularly in November now that Tennessee's in play. Before I get to that, and you give me those 5 players that Tennessee fans should be wary of or at least aware of, I'll let you choose whatever verb you'd like to choose. But I want to tell you about Owl's Nest Barbecue and Pro Shop, knowledgeable service. It is absolutely incredible. The area's best product selection, and they've got the Green Mountain Grills, wood-fired pellet grills that are absolutely unbelievable. And the rubs and the spices, they've got it all right there everywhere from the Butcher Barbecue rub to the Blues Hog rub. You're going to love it at Owl's Nest Barbecue. And don't forget about Steve Ray's Midnight Oil, a proud Michelin distributor right next door. So give me 5 guys that Tennessee fans should be aware of heading into this game against South Carolina.
Well, Marshawn Lloyd is certainly, when healthy, is a pretty good player for them, and is a guy that I like. I think Corey Rucker, receiver, has some ability, but I think he's got a ways to go. I think the interior of the offensive line is pretty good, particularly their center and their right guard. Defensively, to me, I don't think there's a lot of guys that I'm trying to look at my grades to make sure I don't forget anybody. The corner, the rush kid's a really good player. I do think the defensive tackle, 91, Hemingway, is a really good player that I've got graded, decently. And I think Tyreek Johnson is another good one, the defensive end. But there's not enough of them. I do think the defensive line, not quite as talented as Missouri's, and not as productive as Missouri's, but I think it's still a strength for them relative to the rest of their team. I still think outside the one corner, you can throw the football pretty effectively. I think the only issue would be playing home on the road. That would be the only thing that I would think could be maybe a factor. Which they get excited. They very good fan support there, but I don't know that that's going to be. And maybe getting excited about. Look, you got to understand if you're Tennessee, it's like, hey, Tennessee's coming to town now.
True.
What do you got? Let's try to spoil them. I don't think that's really the issue. I think they're excited about Tennessee, but I think South Carolina is going to end up with a beatdown against Tennessee and likely a beatdown against Clemson and going to end up 6-6 again. That's where I see it personally.
I think that's where you picked them in the preseason. Actually, I will say this about South Carolina. There are two places I've been in the SEC that I was blown away because of my expectations going in by the crowd. One is South Carolina. I didn't expect much of anything, and all my trips there, they were always hype. And the other was actually Auburn, which I think is one of the top 4 or 5 toughest places to play that I've ever been to, for sure, and definitely in the SEC. Last thing I'm gonna
but real quick, the thing about South Carolina that's impressive is they've never won anything, and they really support it. Now you say about A&M too. A&M's never won, not won big, but at least it's had some success. But South Carolina's never won. They've won one conference title.
Well, I haven't.
You know which one that is?
It was 36, wasn't it? 1936?
No. South Carolina has won one conference title.
That wasn't
1969 in the ACC.
Oh, I thought
the head coach was Paul Dietzel. I mean, it gives you an idea of how and Lou Holtz did a good. Spurrier was great, but they have supported all of them, and it's what do they call it? Is it Sandstorm or I can't remember what they play that thing on. It's right on the. Yeah, I think they got what do they call those train cars? You've been that on the you see got those train. It's really you would get the feeling going there that it is special. It's like going to the Grove on steroids. I mean, it's really good, and you would say, man, this must be one heck of a program. And they've got better fan support, but you're right. In Auburn though, Auburn has been really good in the past, and they've won big at times, but South Carolina's never done it. So it's a good atmosphere. There's a low ceiling though, I think, for the program.
Yep, I think that's right. And if Steve Spurrier can't win there, and he did win there, but if he can't win a championship, I don't think Shane Beamer's going to do it. I think we can pretty much go with that. I think
that's why I said I told him I did a little consulting for him, and I told him if you get out of your way, that would have been a perfect job for Hugh Freeze. As long as you can deal with the morality stuff, I'm talking strictly as a football coach. Guy can recruit. He recruited well at Ole Miss. I know he got in a little bit of trouble doing it, but he can get transfers in. And that's a guy that can run a system that's going to make opposing schools worry a little bit. You put him in a place like that, then you can take South Carolina a little bit further than what their normal status is. Because South Carolina is never going to look like Georgia unless Georgia comes down to South Carolina. So I think you got to have a type of coach that can really do a good job. But, the ex-players, they love Shane Beamer. He's an assistant there before. He was one of theirs. It's great. Good luck. I hope it works out. I think about what they have is maybe they could get to 8 wins occasionally. That's about it.
He's Chris Landry. I'm Dave Hooker, and it's all brought to you by Owl's Nest Barbecue and Steve Ray's Midnight Oil, a proud Michelin distributor. Chalk Talk, a presentation of Off the Hook